Hello, welcome to our podcast. We're joined again by Todd, our CEO from North America. Welcome again. And today we'd like to talk a bit about the larger architectures that we see in more substantial organisations. If you're a startup, it's great because your architecture's relatively straightforward. There's no history in there, no legacy stuff kicking around still. As you move up into the larger corporations, you start to get constraints coming in. And so I was thinking, if I'm a BI manager and I've got this old legacy warehouse or data platform, and I want to build a new platform in there, how do I get through that? I mean, we see this all the time. Mm-hmm. You're often in a sales situation where this happens. What questions are you getting them asking you to help move through their process?
Well, you're right, because they've got a lot of technology and licensing that they've already purchased, right? So, oftentimes, let's take inventory of what we have. Is something in our ecosystem or something that's worked particularly well for one line of business fit for purpose for the entire organization and the broader strategy? Or do we need to go back and look at some new best-in-class tooling?
I can remember one client I worked with, they discovered a server they didn't know existed in their network, which had a very old part of the BI still running on it, and no one knew about it. Or I've heard of another one where part of the BI was running on a desktop somewhere, and people would leave the desktop running overnight just so that data could flow through the desktop back out to the mainframe again. So yeah, there's inventory's good. I agree with that. But how do they get through? I mean, if you look at a typical organisation, there's committees everywhere and managers that need to be approved. Mm-hmm. More gatekeepers than there are doers.
Right.
What do they need to get through those gatekeepers?
Well, you're right. You've got information security, right? You've got finance. You've got numerous other steering committees, and so oftentimes new tooling means higher barriers to entry for purchasing.
A whole lot of pain.
You're right. Exactly. So that gets back to, hey, what's been approved thus far? But also, when this is the case, let's take a look at what is right for supporting the business and helping us drive growth. So that's when we go out and reach out to our partners, right, that are in the Gartner quadrant typically, and work to help evaluate and suggest and hopefully implement the right architecture and tooling to support that.
I mean, at the risk of oversimplifying it, the big decisions that need to be made are really, are we on cloud or on-prem?
Right.
There's still people on-prem and some people moving back to on-prem and whatever, yes. So are we on the cloud? If we're on the cloud, if so, what platform?
Who's our hyperscaler?
AWS, are we Google? Are we Azure?
Mm-hmm.
Then having decided that, you then start to say, well, okay, what are the components of a typical data platform? So you've got an ETL tool to choose, you've got a database to choose, a dashboarding solution to choose, any other consumption stuff like AI, data science, things, and often a landing tool as well. How do I get data coming in?
Yeah.
And if you look at the marketplace, there's hundreds and thousands of options in all of those areas, although we do converge down to some leaders in the marketplace. And I think you've got all that plethora of choice, and in the more formal organizations, they would expect you to write up your choice. Why have you chosen a particular way forward? Why do you want to replace something you have now with a new thing or upgrade it or whatever? And to be able to help on that, you often need to refer out to sort of standard architectures.
Yeah.
So you go to the companies out there and say, what is your standard architecture for Azure, please, for this? And then you can use those standard architectures as weight that would say, well, others build them like this. Mm-hmm. Therefore, that would suggest these particular tools, and therefore you can get through some of your committees by saying we're building a best-in-class solution here. And we do the same. I mean, we have published some architectures as part of our business, and we'll have a link on the attach text on here, which will take you to where they're located.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the market's moving so fast that we're always updating those and publishing new versions as tools come through.
It's the value in bringing in a consulting partner to help you with that.
It is. And very often, well, I don't think you can actually buy a single source for all the tools that you need. I mean, you can go into AWS or Azure Architecture and you can find all you need in there, but there's still a choice.
Right.
When you go into Azure, there's a choice of databases. Is SQL Server? Are you going to use Synapse? Are you going to use Databricks? All the hosted versions they have of the other databases. If you go into AWS, similar issue.
Right.
So, yeah, fine, I'm in that particular cloud, but which database is best for me? And then having done that, you're then looking at the other tools as well. Yeah. So I think you hit on a key note earlier on, though, because you can, as a designer, get lost in the technology.
Yeah.
You've always got to bear in mind the business impact that's out there. And very often that business benefit can overweigh objections.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have the senior management in the business saying, we have to do AI. Yeah, we have to do that. The last thing they want to hear is someone saying, we can't do that because,
right,
because the security isn't matching what we need, or because of this, or because of that. And while those objections are quite valid, the business driver is a motivation to overcome those, rather than be batted back at the earliest opportunity to keep away from suggesting change, because it's just too difficult to get through those barriers. So again, it comes back around the loop again to sort of sticking with best in class, sticking with architectures that are well known out there, like standard combinations. And maybe only going out on a limb on one of the packages in there. So, we have some clients that have been experimenting with AI tooling on the front end, and doing quite well with a bit in terms of the results they're getting. But you wouldn't want to suggest that and the database change and an ETL change and everything else to move forward. So yes, that's how I would be. What other things do you often hear from the BI managers when we're dealing with them in sales? So one is, I need to get through these committees. What else are they asking?
I know I need to modernize, but I can't disrupt my business partners. And they like the way that things look and operate in a business as usual model. So, how do I go about addressing that?
Yeah, that makes sense. So luckily, there are ways around that. It takes work, because you have to reconcile as you go. You can migrate to a new platform without much impact on the end users.
Yeah.
It tends to require a bit of scaffolding built around it, so you can run old and new in parallel for a while, cutting over. But that certainly can be done, and has been done multiple times. And I think you also mentioned something else in there, which is quite important for these managers, and that is, that they are assembling best in class there, and how do they negotiate that licensing environment? Okay, so one is, yes, I can't buy everything from one vendor necessarily to do it all. How do I license? How do I organize the integration between all the new technologies that are coming in to deliver that? And I think one thing I will say in there is that unless you have an existing platform that's very expensive, so we know the tools that are out there and the databases that are expensive. So only in the clients I've seen that have the really expensive tooling will the migration pay for itself in terms of cheaper tools around. The justification has to come from the business applications that we're going to enable with the new platform, not necessarily tooling savings. So I tend to go for a best case and neutral cash change in terms of the running costs.
It's the value you're going to receive.
Then running forward. Yeah, exactly.
That brings up another interesting point, because the business user is different than it was 20 years ago. And their expectation is different, right?
Yeah.
And so you hear a lot more around self-service, with
Yeah.
BI, and maybe the BI team is more of a service delivery function for business partners.
Yeah. You still can't get them off Excel, though. No. They're still one day data dumped in there, and that's actually another point to make. Even though AI is hitting the platform, they still want dashboards, they still want data extract. So it's not like switching off old stuff. It's keep those running as well, please.
Yeah.
Please, can you add this and this and this to the mix? So the platforms have to become more adaptable for different use cases, and that again often is another driver why you need to have change in there. Okay, well, I found that quite interesting. If you found that interesting as well, please do send in comments. Delighted to hear what you've got to say here, and there's plenty of links, I'm sure, on the side of this for some white papers and model architectures if you're interested to see what we have available. Otherwise, we'll be very happy to see you all next time, and have a good one.
Great.
Right, bye.